Welcome to Footy Centre podcast series. Welcome to Footy Centre podcast series.
Hello there. It's time for another episode of FC Pitchside Podcast with me, Thierry. And thank you very much for joining me as we delve today into Club World Cup matters as, several of the South American teams are causing shocks. Chelsea continue to prove why they can never be trusted. And for the likes of Real Madrid, it's real building, but we'll see what that means going for them into the next round of the game. Bayern Munich and the likes of PSG are also inconsistent, so we'll see how that goes. But we'll be discussing the Club World Cup in detail. And we'll also be bringing you some transfer stories and be delving into, a couple of the key potential signings in this summer transfer window. We'll also be looking at some of the conversations that I've been having with a few key individuals in the Club World Cup, so that should also be expected. But also key in this conversation is going to be the discussion of the best centre-backs in football history. You know, it's off-season, and so we have some of these special episodes for you where we delve into, some of these key debatable conversations. And today we decided to go with the centre-backs of all time. Which pairings have impressed you the most? We have our own choices, and we'll be ranking them from 10 to numero uno. Also, this is the FC Pitchside podcast, so it's never going to end without a game, and it's going to be between Sicho and Jonathan Mensah. They will be my guest here in this particular episode. Sicho is here with me. Jonathan will join later. All right, so let me invite Sicho into the conversation. Sicho, good. As at the time of recording, it's afternoon, so good afternoon. You're welcome.
Well, it depends on what part of the world you are in. It's good
Right.
evening here, so good whatever time it is.
Yeah, so
So,
the day of recording today is Sunday, set 22nd June. Just take
yeah,
note of that. And we are bringing you this particular episode. If you're watching on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, where you can find your podcasts, we say a big thank you for subscribing and liking the video. Please leave a comment. We definitely would like to hear from you, so please drop those comments. But let's get straight into the conversation. And it's going to be about the Club World Cup. And one of the pivotal scorelines or results that we've seen in this competition has been Inter Miami against FC Porto. And I mean, very few people expected Inter Miami to come out with victory. But, inspired by Lionel Messi, one of the greatest of all time, they were able to beat a European giant, being FC Porto. But the key question for me is not exactly reviewing the game, but looking at what this means for Inter Miami. Can Lionel Messi lead them to Club World Cup victory? Because, I mean, that would be a fairy tale story. It might be magical for especially those who support Lionel Messi. But is this even possible? Critical look at this by Sicho. Sicho, let me take your view on that.
look, I don't think Inter Miami, the team as a whole, is good enough to go all the way to win it. I think for Inter Miami, getting out of the group stage in itself would be a massive achievement for them.
Right.
But once you've crossed that hurdle, then it begins to open up. You can start dreaming because you don't have to win the game in front of you. And at that point, it's a knockout stage. You can go to penalties, extra time, and anything could happen. I just don't think that as a group, they are important players. Are not players who, after every 4 days or after every 3 days, have got it in them to reproduce the magic. So, for Messi, Suarez, Busquets to play maybe every 3 days, every 4 games in the next coming days, I don't think that they would have the same level of energy to be sustained. But yeah, they've got incredible magic about them, and the way Messi won that game, as you described, was just superb. But to go all the way would be a stretch.
Do you think Messi has enough hunger for this, though? We saw his performance in the first game. He almost got a goal or two, in the dying minutes of that particular one. It was one of the most entertaining stalemates we've seen. And then this one, helping his team to secure the victory that it did. Do you think this is going to be one of the best versions we've seen of Lionel Messi, or you think it's just a flash in the pan?
No, I think that he looks hungry. He looks like he wants to win. We saw him in the game against Ali. It didn't look like he didn't care. Obviously, he's not It's not at the same Messi we knew a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
he's 38 going to 39. It's not, we weren't expecting to be the same. But when he's played, when he's been on the ball, he's looked like he wants to be there. He's not treating the competition like he's being forced to play, or it's a competition he didn't want to play, but he has to play. It looks like a
Right.
competition that he's relishing. So yeah, I think that he's attaching all the importance to it, and it's good to see. It's not only him. Suarez, Busquets. Look at Busquets protesting every single foul that the referee gives against his team, as well as Suarez and Messi. That clearly
Hmm.
shows that they are very interested in this competition and in competing in it with their teams.
And also, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Lionel Messi, but there are several key aging European wizards with him there in Inter Miami. Jordi Alba came on, later in the second half. Suarez cannot make runs against Sergio Busquets doing what he does best. This team is definitely not all about Lionel Messi. Do you think the experience this Inter Miami team has can take them all the way?
Again, taking them all the way, I don't think so. I think the experience they've got, they might be able to get out of that group, and that in itself will be a massive achievement. Look, Inter Miami have not had the best of seasons in the MLS. They've struggled a couple of times here and there. So for them to pop up in the Club World Cup and to get out of the group will be a massive achievement. To reach the last 16, to even try and get to the quarters will be a great achievement. But yeah, like you said, the experience in this camp, the way that they've carried the tournament, the way they've actually come out to try and play. It's a massive example to all the young players and every other player in the team. If Messi is working hard in this tournament, Suarez is, Jordi Alba, as you mentioned, Sergio Busquets are all looking
Right.
at players who want this. It's a wake up call for anybody around them. They'll see it in training, they'll see it in the way they carry themselves around the camp, and that in itself would be what will send a signal of the message across the team. So yeah, I think that look, it's a competition. Win the game or get the results in the games ahead of you and see where it takes you. Again, like I said, I don't think Inter Miami are going to go all the way to maybe clinch it, but I think that they can get out of the group, and then that will still be a massive, massive achievement.
All right. So away from Inter Miami, though, let's still stay in the Club World Cup, and this time let's look at the South American teams because again, it's of key interest to lots of people considering the impressive results. Up until Friday, the South American teams were all unbeaten. Bayern Munich beating Boca Juniors from Argentina, but still the Brazilian teams are still unbeaten. We've seen, the likes of Botafogo beating Paris Saint-Germain, Flamengo beating Chelsea. We've seen very impressive results for Palmeiras, for Fluminense. It's it's almost as if they have a mission to remind the world that they are still a powerhouse in football, and maybe their club side of things is here to stay. Especially competing against the giants from Europe.
Yeah, I think that the results we are seeing of the Brazilian teams is very consistent with what we had seen in the old version of all the previous versions of the Club World Cup. We
Right.
would normally see the South American team in the final with the European team. Normally,
Hmm.
at times we see the Asian team, maybe then, and rarely an African team in the final. But most often we
Yeah.
see the South American team. So, to be honest, in the world of football, Europe, in my opinion, is number one. Following them is South America or the CONMEBOL, and it's
Right.
actually demonstrated in itself in this tournament as well how strong the CONMEBOL teams are. But there are several indicating factors to it because whereas the European teams have finished their season and most of the players have got on their last legs and have to find some energy from somewhere to compete. All
Yeah.
these South American teams are in the middle of their season, and as you know, at the start of every season, teams are slower because they are now going to pick up their fitness and momentum and rhythm. By the middle of the season, teams have peaked because they would have picked
Hmm.
up their momentum. So the lots of
Yeah.
the South American teams coming into this tournament have picked their momentum already. They've picked their rhythms. Coaches have sent their signals across. They know their teams. Partnerships have been formed. Bonds have been formed. Telepathies have been formed. So they look sharper. They look more cohesed. And of course, we can't take aggression and passion from South American games. And that is what we've seen. So a lot of the European teams, some of them have not been able to cope with the intensity of the South American teams. But South American teams won't care. The Club World Cup is coming this summer. They are ready for it.
I like that, but let's zoom into a couple of those, results. I want us to look at two of them. one of them being Chelsea versus Flamengo. It didn't go too well for Enzo Maresca's side against the current leader of the Brazil league, Flamengo. They are in good form, like you said, and I think you make very interesting points about how the momentum will be in favor of these South American teams, considering they are in the middle of their season, they are sharp and all that. Some of these European team players have basically their minds are on the beach. If that's if
Yeah,
that's a good way to put it, because I mean this time of the year is where they usually like relax, try to
absolutely.
recuperate and all that, and the competition being forced on them at this point, and they need to stay competitive for their clubs. I mean, that's what pays you, so you still have to do it, but you can clearly tell that they are not in the best mental and physical shape. But let's look at Chelsea versus Flamengo. When you look at how Chelsea played, it is not the same way we've seen them play last season. Maresca himself said he was trying new things. Maybe that goes against what the club itself wants, considering the owners want to win this, and it's like the coach is treating it like the preseason, trying new formation, new tactics with new players and all that. How will you define Chelsea's campaign, and how do you think an early exit from the Club World Cup will affect their season going forward? I mean, next season.
Well, yeah, I think that for Enzo Maresca and for a lot of the European coaches as well, as much as you want to win this competition, it also serves as your best preseason opportunity
Right.
because some of the fixtures you are playing, even in preseason games, you never have the quality to test few
Hmm.
things around. And
Yeah.
let's face it, when if they go as far as possible in the competition, they are likely to have 2 weeks of rest and then the next season starts, which means they wouldn't have proper preseason games. So
Hmm.
this season affords you the this period of the competition affords you the opportunity to try all the new things you want to try with your team.
Yeah.
Also bearing in mind you want to win and go as far as possible because there is this cash attached to this heavy cash attached to this competition. I think Enzo Maresca's issue is not necessarily about trying new things. It's about he did it throughout the whole of last season. In last season, he tried a lot of different things, and a lot of it didn't work in that spell where Chelsea were not getting the results. I think that the thought that Reece James could be an outright central midfielder,
Yeah.
and then Malo goes, all of those things that he tries is unbelievable because
Let me hold you right there, because I spoke to Moises Caicedo after the match, and I asked him a simple question about who he prefers playing alongside him, because he's considered the mainstay in that midfield. But there's been Lavia, there's been Enzo Fernandez, there's been Reece James. Who does he prefer playing alongside? And this what he had to say. All right, Sicho, so please continue.
that was a very political answer from him. He doesn't want to tell the coach the players to pick alongside him.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to tell the coach I want Lavia and Enzo, and it's like, okay, you don't want the rest of the players in the team,
But who when
Oh
but
yeah,
when you see Caicedo play though, who do you think he's more comfortable playing alongside?
I honestly think he's comfortable playing alongside Lavia. I think
Right.
I think he's very
And
comfortable. The
I
two of
genuinely
them,
believe that, because I think
yeah,
Chelsea's best midfield displays have been when Lavia has been fit and firing. I think on two
yeah,
occasions when Lavia played against Liverpool, they dominated the midfield.
yeah,
And a few other occasions when Lavia has returned, from injury and has partnered Caicedo, there's been a clear distinction between the two of them playing together, and when even Enzo plays with Caicedo. I agree with that.
yeah. Because I think the best one of the best attributes of Caicedo is being the box to box. But when he's not playing alongside Lavia, then he has to focus a lot more on sitting deep. But with Lavia, he knows he can go and he trusts Lavia to mop up behind
Yeah,
him.
exactly.
I also genuinely think that even though Kopama is the most creative player, he scores goals and everything, I also trust Enzo in that number 10 position because without the ball, his movement into the half spaces and breaking into the box with the late runs can be dangerous. The only
Right.
thing is, the manager doesn't necessarily trust Cole Palmer to be a wide forward player, right? Because even though
Hmm.
he's kind of fast, he's not blisteringly quick like Neto and Madueke. So the
Yeah.
manager would want him to play in that little pocket and give him the free roll. And we know, of course, that Obama also thrives in the free roll. So that is where the confusion maybe is for Enzo Maresca. But I think that Rich James playing in the middle of the park should be against a team that you are 100% sure you see a lot of the ball. And even
Mm.
that, Rich James might have to start from the right hand side of the right back and then
And
come into the
invert.
middle of the park and invert. But if you want to stick him into the middle of the park, that's a different ball game. That you are
Yeah.
making him a complete central midfielder. And when you play against the Flamingo team that are very comfortable on the ball, that are very good with short, quick passes, you're going to cause problems in the middle of the park because when they have the ball, they are comfortable. They won't lose the ball easily. They find the
Exactly.
passes. And because the relationship between Caicedo and then Rich James is being forced and it's not working, it's easy for Flamingo to dominate in those spaces. And I think that's what helped Chelsea. What also didn't help Chelsea really was, of course, that Nicola Jackson red card. And I feel sorry for the boy. He's a bit erratic, and that's Nicolas Jackson. It's even in the way he tries to score goals or takes
Yeah.
chances. He's a little bit erratic. He's not the most composed, footballer. Not only in front of goal, but even with his runs, with his touches, with his tackles, with a lot of things about his game. And that's what we saw. Because of him being erratic, he tried to win the ball, got over the ball, and went straight into the legs of his man. Red card, no questions. He's accepted the responsibility, and I hope he can learn from that. While learning from that, if he can keep a cooler head with his finishing, with
But
his
but but
runs,
but but I envisage a problem at Chelsea in the strike force because if they maintain Jackson and Delap going into the season, mind you, Delap was the striker that fouled the most in the Premier League last season, and by
yeah,
far his numbers far outweigh the other strikers by far. So
yeah,
and even in that game, he was yellow carded. So you're
mhm,
looking at two erratic centre forwards. I mean, one thing though is Delap wasn't necessarily receiving yellow cards, even though he was fouling a lot of players. But the thing is, on bad periods, and we know every in every season, every club, every team has that where you have a bad patch.
definitely.
If that bad luck falls on your forwards where they are both sent off in different matches, that could be a problem. And discipline as a whole has been Chelsea's one of Chelsea's biggest problems. And to have your two strikers not necessarily being indisciplined, Jackson, I would say, being a bit indisciplined because of how he cannot control his reaction after losing the ball. For Delap, it's more about being young, being erratic, and being raw. Chelsea need to arrest that situation. If not, it goes against them. But how do you see that going for Chelsea next season? Who do you think starts between Jackson and Delap next season?
I think Jackson starts and Dilap is going to give him the competition. So Jackson is not necessarily going to be ending games after 90 minutes. He's going to be seeing 60 minutes, 65 minutes. Dilap comes to get to 35 minutes. And between the two of them, the manager will be looking
Right.
at who is offering what. And that again is not, at times, it cannot be helped because in a striker's position, you need to clearly define who your number nine is. Because they won't always score in every game. But the moment you're
Yeah.
taking them off after not scoring goals, as young strikers, that that causes problem for their confidence, right? Because
Exactly.
there are many games that a player like maybe Thierry Henry would have played and didn't score, but he wasn't worried because he knew he will start. But in Chelsea's
Exactly.
case, if Nicolas Jackson is not scoring, it doesn't mean he's playing badly, but he can get worried and that can affect his confidence and performance because he knows that if he has not scored and Dilap has come to score, even though Dilap has not necessarily played well, Dilap is starting the next game. And that same would happen for Dilap. But I think that the issue with the discipline and everything also comes down to experience, really. If you have players who have got a certain level of gamesmanship through experience, they are able to
Hmm.
cut these things out. These boys will grow and they will learn. But at a club like Chelsea, will the club be patient enough to allow these boys to grow and learn? I think that is where the problem is because this club is a winning club. They desperately want to win big things, and they cannot afford to have in quotes baby mistakes happening from players that they are supposed to be reliable and produce the goods for them. I think Enzo Maresca has got his work cut out for him. He has to find a way to get the best out of this team. And that is why I've questioned the Chelsea project because the team that finished fourth last season was a decent team. Bringing in a
Right.
couple of more experienced, accomplished players, like a more experienced centre back, a striker like Osimhen, you know,
Hmm.
changes the whole look of Chelsea. Like
So
it can take
so
Chelsea from
someone who immediately commands a starting position and everybody knows
yes,
can at least get you 20 goals a season instead
yes,
of the Matra Marquez that we are seeing currently with these two
absolutely.
strikers. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
get that.
I think if you get a couple of players in, an assured midfielder, an assured experienced centre back, They never replaced Thiago Silva's experience. They never did. If you get an experienced centre back and you've got a striker like maybe Osimhen or one of the big strikers on the market, Chelsea can move
Yeah.
from being a fourth place team to straight away being a team competing for the Premier League because they've got a good framework to work with, but they need certain elements across the spine of the team. Think about a proper solid goalkeeper, proper centre back, and a proper striker. That
Yeah.
spine with Caicedo and Enzo could take Chelsea from being a fourth place team to a title contender. But Chelsea have gone back to the project, signing young and promising, talented footballers who maybe can't necessarily take them to win or make them competitive, but will be exciting to watch.
Yeah, I mean there are certain missing pieces in there, but maybe there's a missing piece in Juventus as well. So I saw that game in Philly. There was another game that I saw in DC, and that was Juventus versus, their counterparts from the Middle East, and that was Al Ain. And that particular game produced five goals in
Yeah,
favor
five
of
zero.
Juventus. Yeah, 5-0, 5 goals against Malayan. But Juventus fans, I spoke to them. I was asking them really if they were to sign a player from the from the English Premier League to sort of match what McTominay did at Napoli, which player would they like to sign? You'd be surprised with some of the answers. Let's see what they say. If Juventus had to sign one player from the Premier League who would look exactly like McTominay did at Syria, who do you think is going to be? Who would you like Juventus to sign to get you guys to win the Serie A title?
Alexander Isak.
Chiesa.
Who?
Maybe Holland.
Haaland. All right, and how about you?
That won't happen.
Haaland too?
If we really had to make a dream signing,
Haaland.
Van Dijk.
Van Dijk.
Do you think Van Dijk changes
Yeah,
your
Van
season?
Dijk will save us.
Van Dijk.
Van Dijk or
How about
Haaland.
you?
Yeah, I agree. I think Holland would be great.
Oh, you also go with Haaland?
I go with Holland too.
All right, and how about you?
Listen, I disagree with him. I think it's. You said?
He said Haaland, he said Van Dijk.
Van Dijk.
Van Dijk. You guys think you need centre backs?
We need centre backs.
Right,
we need
right.
centre backs.
And that changes your whole season.
the
One player.
Italian defense.
Right.
Listen,
Chiesa.
Chiesa?
Chiesa too.
Chiesa too. All right, looks like Juventus fans are all over Chiesa. Hopefully they sign him. All right, so that's what Juventus fans are saying. But I also asked them about who they think will be shining the most between De Bruyne, who is a new signing for Napoli, and Luka Modric from Real Madrid, also landing in the Italian Serie A. And they vastly think that De Bruyne is going to be the winner of this particular expectation debate. And the reason is because they think De Bruyne is fitter, he's younger, he's sharper than Luka Modric. Sisho, do you agree?
Yeah, I think so. And more so, Kevin De Bruyne is going to play in a team that at the moment looks better than the Milan
Right.
team, right?
Right.
He's going to play in Napoli. They are defending champion. They've got good players. They've got a great coach in Antonio Conte. So you just know that the team that won the league last season, they've got almost everybody still in place, and De
Yeah.
Bruyne is an addition. So it
Yeah.
sets it up for him to excel. Whereas Luka Modric is going into a depleting Milan team, a struggling
Yeah.
Milan team. So you wonder if, as good as he is, he can
He
give
can
you
change
the
anything.
effect.
Right.
Yes, he can inject anything. Whereas we know that Napoli are good enough to project Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne's already exceptional talent.
Right. So now let me just mention a few important things, and then we move on from the Club World Cup. And one of them is going to be the fact that Bayern Munich and Flamengo have qualified for the last 16 of the Club World Cup. Just take note of that. Also, there's talk about who is going to be in the round of 16. The best two football teams from each group, or each of the 8 groups of 4, will be fighting it out to keep their title hopes alive in the round of 16, taking place from the 28th to the 1st of July. So just take note of that. We'll be here to bring you all the details and dissect all the major happenings, from the Club World Cup as you know it. But remember, the winning team will advance to the quarterfinal on 4 and 5 July ahead of the tournament's semi-finals, which will be on the 8th and the 9th of July. The competition will come to an end on the 13th of July in New Jersey, where the champion will be crowned. And I most likely will be there. And hopefully I can bring you, some exclusive conversations over there as well. But let's move on from there. Let's touch a bit on transfers before we get into the conversation that I promised you, being the centre backs. But we'll be right back after this.
This is the FC Pitchside podcast, the first in an exciting lineup of podcasts by Footy Centre. Footy Centre is where you'd read your intriguing opinions and daily stories about football. From Europe's biggest leagues, the Champions League, international matches, and for Ghanaian fans, get closer to your favorite national teams.
Welcome back to FC Pitchside Podcast with me, Theo Nyan. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and like this video. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, please leave us a 5-star rating. We appreciate that. Leave your comments under them, and we definitely would want to attend to them in the next episode. Before we move on to other topics in the transfer, I see a man join us now, and it looks like he's changed. I think it's the same mansion he's been joining us from, but it's a different wall now. It's no longer Wall of Jonah, it's a Wall of Fame. Because I see Cristiano Ronaldo, I see Wayne Rooney. Oh, please. I see Wayne Rooney, and I see Landon Donovan. Jonathan had an emergency and couldn't join us earlier, but he joins us now. Jonah, you're welcome.
Thank you guys for having me, and it's always an honor to join you guys.
No, it's our honor. It's our honor to have you. It's going to be having one of the greatest centre backs in football history. Basically, ranking the best or the top 10 best centre backs that we've seen. And we don't want to go into 1940s and 1950s that we didn't see some of these players. We want to go into some of these players that we have seen with our eyes, and that would be from the 90s and especially from the 2000s. Rating some of the greatest names, because what we know is that defenses win titles. They say attacks will win you games, but defenses will win you titles. But you cannot talk about defenses without talking about centre-back partnerships. And so today our conversation is about who the best pairings have been for the greatest clubs and why. And we are going to be ranking them from 10 to 1. So this is how we're going to do this. I'm going to mention all the different pairings that we have listed are top 10, right? But without any order. And then the three of us are all going to agree on who sits in what position, if you understand what I'm saying. So the three of us are all going to agree on if we should put a particular pairing at number 6 or at number 1. So
like maybe, for example, Sicho and Thierry number 1, maybe.
Yeah. And then we say that maybe Jonathan Mensah and John Boy will be number 20.
John Boy number 20 or something like that. 20. Yeah. I like it.
But anyway, so that's exactly how it's going to go. And so let me just mention the pairings. We have Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic. And when I mention the pairing, I also mention the team they played for. So what we are going to do is to simplify it, because, for example, I think Cannavaro and someone else played for both Juventus and Parma, but their work is going to be at Juventus when we are critiquing what they did. So we need to mention the teams they played for, just to give perspective to the viewers and listeners. There's also Andrea Bazzagli and Leonardo Bonucci for Juventus. There is John Terry and Ricardo Carvalho for Chelsea. There is Gerard Piqué and Carles Puyol for Barcelona. There is Marcel Desailly and Laurent Blanc for France. Not Chelsea, but France. There is Luciano Walter Samuel. Luciano and then Walter Samuel. Yeah, I know you guys will remember Jose Mourinho's epic Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, Lucio, and what's a Samuel, and then there is Matt Hummels and Neven Subotic for Borussia Dortmund, especially 2012, 2013, when they were driving Johan Klopp's teams, to Champions League finals and winning Bundesligas. And then there's Martin Keown and Tony Adams for Arsenal in the early 2000s. There is Sergio Ramos and Pepe under different coaches, but continued to do all the dirty work, all the dirty work. There is, of course, who else but Paolo Maldini and Alessandro Nesta. You cannot do these conversations without mentioning these names. So it's going to be really interesting how we build this. Let's, for the sake of time, we're going to use the next 15 minutes to try and build this while making very succinct points. But please try and be brief in your submissions. So, number 10 for us, guys. Let's start with it. Who should we place at number 10 and why?
ooh, I mean, I think Matt Hummels and Subotic were great. But I will put Basagli and Bonucci in number 10 because I don't think the two of them were great alone unless there was a third person. Mostly Chiellini would have had to complement them to make them as good. So I'll put Basagli and Bonucci at number 10.
You will put Bazzagli and Bonucci at number 10.
Yeah.
That that is serious. What do you think, Jonathan? um, your sound is off, Jonathan. If you could check that. Yeah,
Is it good now?
yeah, it's good now. But it's a lot of
Okay.
ambient. There's a lot of ambient around. Oh, it's better now.
Ooh, it's
No, it's
okay.
better now. It's better now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So I would say if the formation these Bonucci and Bazagli played was the three back, then you definitely have to add the third person, which
Yeah.
Sicho mentioned. So if the that was the formation they played most of their time at Juventus, then it would be fair to put them number 10. Top of
I
the
well
list we
well
have here.
yeah.
We do have some good partners here, and they played two at the back. So when you
Yeah.
talk of these sort of list, you would I would agree with Sicho that we can put them at.
Well, I think I disagree a bit, but I mean, majority carries a vote in this conversation.
Who would you have at number 10?
I would have
Yeah.
Borussia Dortmund's Subotic and Hummels. I
Matthias.
think they were good. I think they were good, but they were not
Yeah.
as all conquering as some of the other centre back partnerships that we have and the pairings that we have. A lot of these pairings won titles and they won trophies.
Hmm.
And it's not just the only criteria; it is also the sort of intimidation, the sort of fear that these partnerships invoked in attacks.
Yeah.
And I think of the 10 that we have here, they would invoke the least fear in in any attack, any formidable
I
attack
I,
in
I,
Europe.
I agree. And the first name I mentioned was those two from Dortmund.
Right.
However, the reason why I'm picking the Juventus Bonucci and Bazagli is we barely, if any, saw them
Barely
play
see
as a
them
two.
play too.
Yeah,
Like
because there was
it was
because there was Chiellini
there
as
was
well.
Chiellini, and even
Yeah.
for the Italian
Chiellini.
national
Yep.
team. So as a two, I'm not going to pick them ahead of Subosic and Homos, who we constantly saw as a two.
So
So
yeah,
Right.
Bazagli and Bonucci
I
are
get I,
great,
I get the
yeah,
argument.
but I'll
Yeah,
make them number 10. Yeah.
I get the argument. All right, so
Yeah.
we
We all
officially have.
agree on that.
So we
Yeah.
agree on
On 10.
having Matt Hummels and sorry, having what's it
Bazagli, Bonucci.
Bazzagli and Bonucci as number 10. So let me just
Yeah.
do that right away. All right. Now let's move on to number 9, guys.
My number 9 would be Matt, for me would be Matt Hummels and Subotic.
Yeah, I
No
think I
explanation.
think I think for I think even though, I mean, all due respect to the two names you mentioned, even though they were great at what they did, the rest of the partnerships that we have here were a lot more formidable for me
Hmm.
than the two. Jonathan, I don't know what you think.
I would agree with that as well. How many titles they won? One or two. they won
Right.
few
They won one actually.
cups as well. One, yeah. So
Yeah.
when you look at the list we have here, I would agree with that number nine for sure.
Okay. Now we move on to number seven. Number seven. And it gets a lot more difficult
Seven.
going forward. But number seven, guys, who are you going for?
Oh man.
I will personally, I think for all the great things Barcelona did, the defense was not the most impressive part of the all-conquering Barcelona team. And it's not to say that Gerard Piqué is not a great defender. We all know what he did for Barcelona and for Spain in the golden generations. We know what Puyol's contributions in those era was. But although unfair, Carlos Puyol, I think, was very underrated. A lot of people thought he was not as good. He was always playing in very good attacking teams. That didn't have to defend much, and I think that goes against him even in this argument. Unfair though, but it still goes against him, considering there were even times that he had to play, in at right back. But of course, the best times between these two, they had Dani Alves at right back, and that basically complemented the entire Barcelona defense. Also having the French left back, what's his name?
Abidal.
Abidal, having Abidal
Yeah.
in at left back, way before Jordi Alba became a thing. Um, Piqué and Puyol to me did great, but against the rest of the people, the partnerships that we have here, I think they'll be my number seven.
And number eight.
Number eight, sorry, number
Number
eight,
eight. Number
number
eight.
eight.
I
Um
didn't see. Go ahead. Go ahead, Sicho.
no, no, Jonah, you first, please.
No, you go. You go. Cause you see that miss you did the miss.
Oh my god, this miss
So
we'll never hear the last of it.
you've been given the floor.
Um I don't think it was I think that for Puyol and Piqué, the way they defended in with the ball was part of the whole plan. So it made them great defenders in that respect. And
Hmm.
also they
And
carried
Piqué
that
is one of
thing
the
from
best center back passes we've ever seen,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
ever.
And they carried that from Barca to even Spain, right?
Right,
So
right,
I'll give them that credit. The one partnership that is very strong and scary, but didn't last as long, right? For me, would be the Lucio and Walter
and Walter
Samuel.
Samuel, right,
As
because they were
great
very
as that
old when
partnership,
they came.
yes, as great as that partnership was in 2008, 2009, 2010, it was devastating to step up against them. I think that I will place them in my number, painfully place them in my number eight, right? Because they were good, they were brilliant and everything. But again, they also played in a very defensive team. So they didn't have to necessarily, the whole team would defend and help them, as well. As good as they were individually, the whole team would defend and help them as well. So I'll place them painfully in number eight, Lucio and Motasamo for Inter Milan.
Jonah, what's your take on number eight?
So Sicho, you choosing Lucio and Walter Samuels, and then Thierry, you going
Thierry is going for
for
PK and Puyo.
Piqué and
Yeah,
Puyol. You know, I would disagree with that with the Gerard Piqué, and because most of the time
right.
Barcelona's team was built around, like the defense was built around the whole team because they will have the ball most of the time. So you will be defending whilst they have the ball, they will rest on the ball and all that. So Gerard Piqué obviously didn't get exposed as much because obviously he had a good defender in Carlos Puyol, and he was good with the ball. So they complemented each other so well. They won everything there was to be won. So and they played more years than Lucio and Walter Samuels, but I didn't see these two play Martin Keown and
Right.
Tony
And
Adams. But
Tony
obviously
Adams. Right.
they are Arsenal legends and they played so well together, but I didn't see them play. Um, but I would agree with Mr. Ampao and
So
Lucy.
so the majority will carry the votes there. Number eight is
Yeah,
going to be Lucio and
but
Walter Samuel. What a partnership that was! My goodness. I
Yeah,
mean, they,
it's a brilliant
they,
one.
you know, every centre back partnership, especially modern football, one has to be the aggressor, and the
Yeah.
other is like the flamboyant passer of the ball. Jonathan Mensah was always a flamboyant passer of the ball, as we
oh
know.
please, I
Bola.
beg, I beg, I beg. Me,
And
me, I dey crash. You are the crash gently, but you don't know.
If you take
and
go call that penalty,
and but
Which
for
one?
these two guys though, Lucio and Walter
the
Samuel,
the Uruguay one,
Yeah.
the
the
USA,
two of
USA,
them were
Uruguay no play some. Yeah,
USA,
USA.
USA, USA.
Yeah, USA. Yeah, USA no yeah, but then do Sulia to my big boss. So after the
Yeah,
Sulia, I say,
you
big
go
boss, why
cover.
you do that? So they go cover and weigh that thing up. I say after the guy, I say, yeah. But talk of Lucio,
yeah
2000 and I believe
20
11,
2010.
Ghana,
Oh, you mean
no,
you're
Ghana,
oh okay,
Brazil.
okay, okay.
Ghana, Brazil, we played
Yeah,
against them
yeah,
where
yeah,
there was
yeah.
Lucio,
Kevin
Marcelo,
Cottage,
What was that in London?
Kevin Cottage.
London,
Yep.
Kevin
Yeah,
Cottage, Kevin
yeah,
Cottage,
yeah,
Yeah, that was when I saw
Ronaldinho.
Lucio. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I was like, man,
I mean, what was
Lucio.
the experience like for you? Because I mean, that was a god of defense, bro.
I'm sorry to bring this up, but it was incredible. One of the best games I've played in.
Yeah,
Playing against all these names, you've heard on TV,
Yeah,
Ronaldinho. That was Neymar, sort of like
Neymar
young
coming up.
Neymar,
Yeah, yeah,
young Neymar, unbelievable.
and at the time,
Fernandinho,
Neymar was Neymar.
Neymar was
yeah.
Neymar, yeah. Coming from Santos and all that.
Yeah,
You had Hulk, you had all the names like
right.
Pato,
Did
Lucio,
did Kaká
Marcelo.
did Kaká play that game? It was just after the World Cup.
Kaka wasn't in that
He
game.
wasn't in
Kaka
that game.
Kaka
wasn't in
Okay.
that
didn't
game.
play in
Was
that game.
injured. Yeah,
But it was unbelievable playing against them, and we went toe to toe. But obviously, we had a red card, and the
Yeah.
game was over at that
I
point.
always feel anytime we play against Brazil, we are undone by something small. But it's always that something small that makes a difference
That's
between the
something
top
small,
team.
adds up. Every
Yeah,
details
that's something
matter.
little
So
details between a top team and an
yeah,
average team, and
yeah,
it just shows why they are who they are. But of course, great
yeah.
submission there by Jonathan. So anyway, officially, number 8 is Lucio and Walter Samuel. Number 7 now, guys. Number 7 from the list we have. Just to refresh the minds of our viewers and listeners, just so they're not confused. There's 7 remaining partnerships that we have: Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic. We have John Terry and Carvalho. We have Gerard Piqué and Carlos Puyol. We have Marcel Desailly and Laurent Blanc. We had Martin Keown and Tony Adams. We have Sergio Ramos and Pepe, and we have Maldini and Alessandro Nesta.
Okay, so I'll go with Martin Keown and Anthony Adams for number 7.
All right. I think that's very brutal for such a great partnership. But yeah, I think I will
Yeah,
agree with you. I will
yeah,
agree with you. I mean,
yeah,
between the two of them, Tony Adams was like, the big
yeah,
boss.
man.
Everybody knows,
Yeah,
Tony
Martin
Adams, and
was
just now,
calm.
yeah, Martin was a calmer one. Tony Adams was a no nonsense defender. But I think I agree here. They helped Arsenal, especially at a time when Arsenal were one of the top 3 dominant forces in England,
In the
and
Premiership.
the kind of defense that they shaped up in front of great midfielders, like especially having the likes of Pires going forward, having Vieira in front of you. It was great, and these were before the days of Sol Campbell. So it just tells you a lot about Tony Adams and Martin Keown. But yeah, I think we'll put them in number 7. I don't know if Jonathan agrees to this.
I do, and like I said, I didn't watch them much, but obviously from the list we have, I've seen these guys play up close, and I remember an interview he did, and then he was at. I think they had Ruud Van Nistelrooy come there, and he was actually apologizing for all the shenanigans he had going on with him during their playing time. So I would agree with that.
Right. And also, for those who do not know, Tony Adams captained Arsenal to their first Premier League title in 1997, 1998, and of course, was a long time captain for Arsenal. He's revered by that club. So We are not against Arsenal players. We are not against any club's players. We are just trying to be as objective as possible. We understand what all of these people have done for their clubs, but we are trying to find the best partnership that we've seen in the game. Now we have a few more remaining, guys. So four down, six more to go.
For number six now.
Yeah, number six now. Yeah,
Yeah.
Uh, then number six, I'll pick uh, Desai and Laurent Blanc.
Desailly and Laurent Blanc. Why? If you can briefly explain why.
I mean, they were great individuals, and in the French national team, they were a formidable partnership. 99, Euro 2000, they were great. But again, that is for me tournament football. So we would have seen 7 games in the World Cup, 6 games at the Euros, and of course, that altogether was what 13 games. Credit to them for what they did, and as I
Yeah.
say, individually they were great as well. But if you're speaking to them about France, I think in the list we saw a lot more from the rest of the pairings that we've got in the list than them, even though they achieved what they achieved with their national team. But yeah, I would put them in number six because I think some others would beat them to it in that list.
Well, I think they did great. If I could come in before Jonathan, I think they did great for France. And of course, even though it's a few games we are looking at, it's not a good barometer. It's not a big barometer. We are measuring them, after just a few games. But it is critical considering it's the World Cup. And it's
Yeah,
not just in that 98 World Cup, it's also in the Euros
Euro
2000, I
2000.
think,
Yeah,
that followed all the way to the final. They were great. I mean, Laurent Blanc, I think in the '98 World Cup, got red
Blanc,
carded. He
Blanc,
missed that
Blanc.
semi-final, but he was extremely important for France in that final. Helping them to win that World Cup, and we know that was France's golden generation, and these two were pivotal in that particular generation. Jonathan, what do you think?
I would agree with that as well, because preparation is short. It's not like a whole season
Yeah.
pairing where you see them on a consistent
That
basis.
that
So
is an interesting point. I like that. That's an interesting
I
point
would,
because it
I
means
would
that
agree with
it is not
that.
like club football where you know each other. You've played so many games. They are
Yep.
great as they are, even for playing few games together in the
Few
national
games.
team.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. So sometimes we tend to forget these things. I remember um, the coach that signed me in MLS, Greg, when he was leaving Columbus to go coach the national team, he was asking me how it was, and I told him it's very difficult because to be able to get guys coming 1 2 weeks, you preparing to go play a game like a World Cup qualifier game, crucial game. It's very very difficult to get guys going. They actually wired to play a certain system with their clubs, but now you'd have to readjust that and like help them play the way you want the national team to play. So, uh, but even though it was great partnership, but it wasn't for a long time. It wasn't for long period
right.
of time. So I would agree with that. Number six.
Mm. So just to refresh, I'll do that
The
after we
list.
pick. I'll do that after we pick number five. I'll do that after we pick number five. So, or no, I can do that now because I think we already have five people. So, just to refresh the minds of our viewers and listeners, number 10, Bazagli and Bonucci. No, because now, mind you, all these guys are great because we've had hundreds, thousands of centre back partnerships and we've come up with a top 10. So everybody here is great. It's not like we are trying to be, we are trying to pick sides or we are doing favoritism. Bazagli and Bonucci, number 10. Hummels and Subotic are number 9 for us. Walter Samuel and Lucio will be number 8. Number 7 was Martin Keown and Tony Adams. Number 6 was Marcel Desailly and Laurent Blanc. Now we are going to the top 5. Now this is the final, half of this conversation, and we are going to be speeding through it a bit because for the sake of time, guys. So kindly make your submissions a bit brief for me. We already know who the 5 partnerships are. Who are we going with for number 5?
Number 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 5. I will go with John Terry and Ricardo. I'll go with John Terry and Ricardo Carvalho. Again, that is a great
Sacrilege.
partnership. It's a great partnership, but
Right.
it wasn't long lived, right? It was brief, and it came at a time where Chelsea had to break that duck of becoming Premier League champions. But it kind of faded off, very quite early. It started as a bang. Like if you look at them, bang, then it faded off. So I'll go with those two, who are by two of my greatest defenders, centre backs of all time, and their partnership was monstrous for every centre forward or every attacking team. But I'll pick them as my number 5. Because what they achieved, one FA Cup, 2 Premier League titles, and a Community Shield in those 2 wonderful years. Yeah,
Yeah, and they also set the record for the best
most clean
defense
sheets,
ever.
best
Yeah,
defense,
ever
least
ever
goals
in the Premier
conceded.
League till today. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
So yeah. But anyway, Jonathan, what do you think? Who do you go for? Which of these partnerships do you go for?
I think I'll stick with the same.
You go with the same, John
I'll go
Terry
with
and
the same.
Carvalho.
Yeah, yeah.
I was going to go for a different option, but I
where are
would
you
I
going to
would
go for?
go
No,
with
where are you
maybe.
going
Go
to go
for
for?
it. Go for it.
You can,
I
you
mean,
can convince us to.
I was going to go for the Barcelona partnership, and again, I come back to the same point. If you take Gerard Piqué and Puyol into any of the other great teams, not just in Spain but across Europe, I don't think they stand. Not no, that would be an extreme thing to say, but I don't think they'll do as well as they did in the Barcelona team because they played in a system that was so good that the opposition had very, very little of the ball and threatened very little. And in that regard, the defense does not do as much. Their contribution is in another way, not a defensive way. It's a contribution to attack, and so it does not necessarily expose them as much, and they do not necessarily have to work as hard as defenders, which is our main criteria. Not what you did in an attacking team, but what you did in a defensive team. I was
Can,
going to put,
can,
yeah,
can I
I'm
flip
listening.
it this way? Do you think
Okay.
Carvalho and John Terry would have been good defenders in that Barca team, as good as the Barca team were?
Not exactly. And the reason is I don't think the two of them are good enough on the ball. As Pep Guardiola would have wanted.
Right.
Compared to how Puyol and Piqué were really good on the ball and contributed to the attack. But then again, it comes back to the same point I was
I
making.
tell you what.
They were different kinds of defenders all the
I think
defenders
you
that
have
we had.
convinced me. I think you have convinced me to pick PK and Puyol as number 5 because, like, while you were trying to explain, I'm purely looking at the defensive abilities of Carvalho and John Terry, and I don't think that Puyol and PK were better.
Yeah,
So I
I mean,
think
if because we are
you
looking
kind
at
of
this
convinced
purely
me.
on defensive attributes, right?
Yeah, you
Because I
kind
mean,
of
after
convinced me,
all,
really. Yeah,
these are centre backs, right? So we are
yeah,
looking at the defensive abilities of all these partnerships, and if you put these partnerships in 10 different teams, how are they all going to survive in 10 different teams? And I think some will do better than others.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
genuinely feel
yeah,
that John Terry and Carvalho, for the
yeah,
exceptional work they did, especially John Terry and the longevity that
yeah,
he had, and being the best goal scoring centre back in Premier League,
yeah.
even till today, says a lot about what he and Carvalho could do. And let's not forget, Carvalho was really good for FC Porto when they won the treble in Portugal, including the Champions League, before he even went
And
to
we
Chelsea.
don't care about that one. Don't bring that one. We care about what they did in Chelsea. We are talking about their partnership in Chelsea.
Okay. So the
But,
remaining partnerships. So the
but you've
remaining
convinced me.
partnerships. I don't expect you to mention Rio Ferdinand in England or mention Vidic for Serbia.
No.
Mention
I've not done
Manchester
that.
United. Okay,
No, 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 no.
okay,
We are talking about
okay,
their partnership.
okay.
But yeah, look, please
But I
convince me.
genuinely feel though. I genuinely feel though that as a partnership,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think that
yeah.
PK and Puyol were a better partnership than
I
Carvalho and
agree.
John Terry. Because let's also not forget one of the key things we need to look at in a ranking like this is chemistry. Chemistry, understanding, keeping out goals, which is the main focus of any defensive team. Anyway, Jonathan.
No, I mean, I think if
Yeah,
you've convinced me, I think I'll flip it. I flip to your side theory. I think I'll put those two, Puyol and
ahead of
PK. Yeah, in number
John
five.
Terry.
Yeah, yeah. I'll put them in
Yeah.
number five.
So to obviously add to what Thierry said, I mentioned earlier that these two, Piqué and Steven Gerrard. No, no,
PK
no.
and
Sorry,
Puyol.
Carlos
Piqué and
Puyol.
Puyol. My
Puyol.
bad. Yeah, they were playing in a system where it fit their game.
Right.
You know, their
Right.
whole system was to keep the ball from you so that they
Yeah.
defend less.
Yeah.
But if they had a team that, of course, player profile matters a lot. That's why Pep Guardiola would prefer center back like Ruben Diaz as compared to someone else. Because all these things matters. That's why playing in a team
And even
like
before Diaz, he was looking for Bonucci because Bonucci is great on the
Bonucci
ball.
is good on the ball,
Yeah.
exactly, and but he had no speed.
Wonderful passer.
But
Yeah,
obviously,
Yeah.
yeah. So if the more you keep the ball, that is you defending with the ball. So they didn't do as
yeah.
much, 1v1
Defending.
defending
The
as
art of
teams.
defending wasn't as much.
Exactly, wasn't as
Yeah.
much, but they had the ball more. So I would definitely agree with you, but I would still
Yeah.
stick to those two. But yeah, majority carries the vote. So
All right. So we put
CJ changed his mind.
I did, bro. I did. Thierry convinced
they
me,
say
man.
they say only a fool does not change his mind.
That was
So
good. Yeah.
I
Thierry
think I've changed
convinced
my mind
me.
a couple of times in this. So yeah, credits to
Yeah,
Cicho
yeah. I mean,
on
that's
that. But
that's
anyway,
that's
we have
that's the, that's
four
the whole
now.
point.
We have four Gargantuan
Four left.
centre backs. We have Maldini Nesta, Ramos Pepe, Carvalho, John Terry, Ferdinand Vidic. Number 4.
Then John Terry and Carvalho will be my number 4.
All right. So you put John Terry, Carvalho, number 4, and I think you've already made that case already. So I'm not going to ask you to explain.
Yeah, yeah.
Jonathan, who would you put number 4? Would you bring a different partnership?
Looking at the numbers, Real Ferdinand and Vidic did, I would agree with that. I would put them the same. Um, they played more years together as well, so I would stick to the same.
So you think Jonathan? Sorry, I said Jonathan. You think John Terry,
Jonathan
John
Terry
Terry,
and Thierry
I
Carvalho.
beg, I beg, I beg, I beg. I'm from Ghana man, Mr. Mensa.
but yeah, I think I agree with this. The reason is, as good as Terry and Carvalho were, they didn't play so long. And I
Long
think
together,
later on, we saw John Terry and Gary Cahill. We saw John
Yeah,
Terry and Ivanovic. We saw different partnerships.
Alex.
Alex a
Yeah,
little bit, Alex a
Alex
little
as well in there. So clearly, it wasn't the centre back that dominated the Premier League for long. They
long
did it in
time.
about 2 or 3 seasons, which was really good. But that is where Ferdinand and Vidic will come in, considering the number of titles they also won. They won
They
more
want to.
titles. And I personally prefer the Vidic Ferdinand duo for one simple reason. I think it is the perfect kind of centre back partnerships you can ever have anywhere in the world. And I
yeah,
say this because in the best defenses we've seen in football, you'd realize one has to be brute, one has to be, good on the ball, like we've said already. And that's why you would have Chiellini and Bonucci. That's why you would have Jerome Boateng and Hummels. That's why you would have
Thierry,
Vidic.
Thierry.
Yeah,
Who did I say I was going to choose? I said I was going to put Terry and Carvalho in fourth.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I withdraw.
You withdraw that.
Keep
Yeah,
redrawing.
So so
That
I
so
withdraw.
will come again.
so who do you so who do you
Who would you put?
so who do you put number 4 then?
I'll put Sergio Ramos and Pepe.
Sergio Ramos and Pepe.
Ooh.
As good as they were, as a pair, they didn't achieve as much, right?
Right.
The two of them started that Mourinho Real Madrid thing, But at that time,
Actually,
it was Puyol. It was
I've been clouded by Real Madrid's success so much. I thought Pepe was a key part of the success after
no.
Mourinho.
That was a
Actually, he was
Varane.
not.
That was
There was a
that was a
Varane and
Varane
Ramos.
Ramos.
Varane
So
Ramos.
in fact, in this top 10, it should have even been Varane and Ramos and not Pepe and
When
Ramos.
I checked, it
Yeah.
gave me Ramos and Varane.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That is
Yes.
a
Because
better
I was
partnership than Pepe and Ramos
yeah,
have the big names. I
Yes.
right,
think together they have a bigger name as a
And
partnership.
right.
to be honest, to be very
Yeah,
honest,
yeah,
it's actually even maybe criminal to even put the two of them ahead of Piqué and Puyol because the Pepe
right.
Ramos partnership didn't necessarily work. They were both erratic. They were both prone to cards and
Prove
unnecessary
to
fouls.
cards.
No, I
Cards and
definitely
unnecessary
agree with you.
fouls.
No, I
They
definitely
were
agree with
almost always stepping out of their defensive zones to go and, they were always drawn to the ball. And
you.
then
I
they have big
definitely agree with you.
spaces.
I
So
definitely
I
agree with
think
you.
I
So
would quickly
who are you gonna
retract
put?
this.
Who are you gonna put?
So
Okay.
So
I
I'm
think
going,
I think
I'm
we
going to
go
push
back a
them to
step.
five.
Yeah, we go back a
I'm going
step.
to push, yes, I'm going to push them to five. And then push
Yeah, yeah.
Piqué and Puyol to four.
I definitely agree with this.
Oh
I
That
do.
was
my
my
You know,
thought.
god.
you know, you know,
Yes.
So
being no nonsense doesn't necessarily mean you are the best
Meaning
defender.
they are defending
Now,
well.
these
now,
are these are two no nonsense guys.
Yes.
extremely
Yes.
no nonsense.
Like I said,
Did you guys see Sergio Ramos's tackle, the 2-footed tackle?
Yeah, bro.
oh yeah, I saw
At the age
yesterday. I
of
saw,
39. At the age
and
of
then
39.
he was talking to the guy like, what are you gonna
Yeah,
do?
I mean, he will never change. He's who he is.
Oh yeah, he is. He
He
is.
is who he is.
So sorry to cut you there. When you sent me the list, so I was doing research. I was like, okay, partnership for Real
Right,
Madrid, and
right.
then it gave me Varane and Ramos.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, this is a difficult
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
You know,
and
so
I don't know the source of your research, but I back it because if you look at Ramos and Pepe, they didn't achieve as much. That was the prelude to the real success that Real Madrid started chopping. And when
right,
Real Madrid
Yes.
started winning, it was
and
Varane
Ramos,
and Ramos.
yeah.
They started winning the Champions League. They started winning the La Liga titles because Mourinho
Mhm.
Yeah.
preceded that.
Right.
So Mourinho won the La Liga with them, all right, but they were
One,
not as
once, one La Liga, one Copa del
they
Rey,
won La
the
Liga and
Champions
Copa
League
del Rey,
semi,
and
semi,
that was
semis.
it. Yeah, but they were not as formidable as Varane and Ramos. What a partnership!
Ramos,
Anyway,
yep.
I think this list has been a bit unfair to Varane, but we've already declared the list, so we're not going to change that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
we've pulled Sergio Ramos and Pepe back behind
To number
Piqué
five.
Into five.
to
Yeah. Five.
will it be number 5?
Yeah.
So let's go through again. Bazzagli and Bonucci number 10, Hummel Subotic
Yes.
number 9, Lucio
Mm,
Samuel number 8, Keon
mm.
Adams number 7. We
Seven.
have Desai and Blanc number 6. And
Yeah.
so Ramos and Pepe become
No,
number.
number five.
And so if that's the case, number 4 then becomes
Number four,
PK.
Piqué. For me, Piqué and Puyol. I don't know the
Piqué and
rest, but for me,
Puyol.
Piqué and
Yeah.
Puyol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No arguments there. Now we have our top three. And this definitely is going to be our podium finishes. Who gets bronze? Between Maldini Nesta,
Bronze.
Terry
Yeah.
Carvalho, and Vidic
Yeah.
Ferdinand?
Bronze for me. Bronze for me is John Terry and Ricardo Carvalho.
Sorry, Carvalho.
I agree there. I think again we've already made the case about how good they were and everything, but it wasn't that long, and so we have to just put them where they are. Now we go straight to silver, or
Top two.
silver before we do gold. Who is the silver winner here between Vidic, Ferdinand, and Maldini Nesta?
John, what do you think?
So, like I said, growing up, I played center back. So, growing up, I used to study these kind of center backs and all that. And the name that will pop up would always be Paulo. And then obviously Nesta a little bit because they didn't play that long together. But Paulo is unbelievable. So to have a partner like Nesta next to him, they achieved good amount of success. but the silver will go to Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic.
All right. So that's what you say. Sicho, what do you say?
It's a really tough one because when we saw Nesta and Maldini partner in centre half, as Jonas said, they didn't play a long time. That was, I think, Maldini almost on his last legs as well as Leicester. Because when Maldini was able and capable, he would normally play as the left, rarely play as a left back in all the top games. Like
Left back.
even though he's right footed, he played left. In the Champions League final against Liverpool, the 3-3, the penalties, that whole thing, he started even as a left back. And it was
Right.
actually Jap Stamp, Jap Stamp, who was
Right.
That played
playing
centre back.
alongside Nesta. So when Man United lost, Jap Stamp, it was Jap Stamp Nesta more as a partnership. And then later, when Jap Stamp was older, he had left, Maldini slotted in. But when Maldini slotted in alongside Nesta, I don't think, even though they played in that 207 final together and won it, I don't think it was necessarily about the two of them's
Those two.
partnership. It was about the individual greatness of the two of them. Because
Right.
that spell ended almost quickly. So, I love my Italian football. I love my Italian guys. Sadly, I would make them my silver
The
winners.
silver
And I wish they had played as a centre back partnership for longer. So right now,
for long.
Thierry,
Yeah.
you've got to decide who makes silver and who gets gold because you have the final say. Jonah has gone for the Man United pair, and I've gone for the Milan pair for silver.
Don't get me wrong. I
Well,
loved those two, especially
Yeah,
Vidic.
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
Well, for me though, I think I, five Premier League titles, one Champions League, two League Cups. Those are the trophies that Vidic and Ferdinand won, and arguably the best centre back partnership the Premier League has ever seen in terms of um, in terms of creating a very very good defensive partnership that wins things. Ferguson enjoyed a lot of success with these guys, and it's because it was a good chemistry, it was a good balance in the back. But there's also that concern about Maldini being considered the greatest defender of all time,
Yeah,
and not just because he played as a centre back, but he's also considered the greatest fullback of all time.
yeah,
and that is mind-boggling how he transitioned between being a right fullback, a fullback, to becoming a centre back the way he did. The way Maldini then progressed from being that fullback that has now become a centre back, especially in, I think it was in 2002 when Nesta joined him. um at that time Maldini was on his way to becoming like a proper center back, and the partnership that they did about 5 years or so, oh my god, up to 2007, I just don't think the world will ever see any center back partnership like that ever again. I really love Vidic and Ferdinand, I really do. And like I said, I'll give them everything, but I genuinely feel that Maldini and Nesta, nothing should ever touch them when we are having conversations about centre backs. And again, that is even to mention Vidic and Ferdinand, or even to mention Sergio Ramos and Varane, Carlos Puyol and Piqué, and all the balance they gave. Nesta and Maldini were on a different level. They were just on a different level. And I just think the winner of this ranking should be legendary. And I don't think there's any better legendary partnership than Maldini and Nesta. The name should even strike fear in you. The winner is Maldini versus Alessandro Nesta. Second is Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic. John Terry and Carvalho coming third. Gerard Piqué and Carlos Puyol coming fourth. Pepe and Sergio Ramos coming at five. Marcel Desailly and Laurent Blanc coming at six. Martin Keown and Tony Adams come in at seven. Lucio and Walter Samuel are eighth. Matt Hummels and Subotic are ninth. And Bazagli and Bonucci are 10th. But it doesn't mean we are saying that, you know, we are forcing this list on you because we know there are certain partnerships that we definitely left off. We didn't see them play. I never saw Beckenbauer play, but people swear he's the best center back they've ever seen. His partnership with Schwarzenberg in Bayern Munich. There was also talk about Franco Baresi and Costa Curta, also for AC Milan, and that was way, way, way back decades ago. That I didn't see them, so it's difficult for me to talk about these guys. There are lots of good partnerships that we didn't mention, even the ones that we've seen, in our with our eyes. But it's difficult to put everything together. For example, there was Fabio Cannavaro and Alessandro Nesta, but that's for Italy, and we thought
Right.
we would rather choose a club one over the national team partnership that Nesta enjoyed. There was Lily Thuram, for example, with Cannavaro, and that was for Parma and Juventus. They were all
Juventus,
great,
yeah.
but we also need to find our top 10, and this is our top 10. Guys, are you all happy with the list we have?
Yeah, we can ask
Yes.
the viewers or maybe the listeners to also with the same list arrange their top 10.
Right.
Let's see what
They
they think.
also arrange their
Yes,
top.
Let's see what they think.
actually, that,
Yeah,
that that is that's what we're looking for. So please,
yeah.
you've heard our top 10. You've seen how we've ranked them. Rank the top 10 for us. We want to know who you feel should be in what position of the top 10. Now let's go straight to our game for today. Today we far outrun, and we are going to make the game quite short. So I
Oh,
have three
three,
players.
just three. I'll finish him.
Yeah,
Let's
today,
do best
today.
of three. Best of three. I'll win the first
Yeah,
two,
we,
then you're
we,
done.
we are
Don't
not
worry.
even doing player zigzag. We are doing the
Huh?
mystery player. We are doing mystery player. So obviously that is always three.
Charlie.
That is always three. Sicho, suddenly your vim go down. Why?
I don't like
Why?
that game, bro.
We are doing mystery player.
You're not always,
Anyway,
you're not always the beat me to that in that game.
yeah, actually, Jonah has a better
I'll
suggestion.
do it today. I'll do it
But
today.
but yeah, I have chosen my first player, guys. Let's finish this quickly. I've chosen my first player. Let's go. I'm not going to mention the clubs he played for. You should ask me questions that produce yes or no answers to help you find the player. Whoever gets it first wins.
Is he still playing in Europe?
That's two questions in one.
Okay. Is a player playing in Europe?
He played in Europe. So that answers your second
Oh,
question.
okay, he retired.
Yes.
Okay.
Is he a coach?
Is he a coach? Yes, he is.
Is he from Africa?
Uh, place of birth, yes. But he never played for an African national team.
Okay.
That's interesting.
So he's from Europe.
Yes. I would say he's from Europe because of the country he represented.
Yes. Did he win the World Cup?
Did he win the World Cup? Yes, he won the World Cup.
And he's a coach currently.
Yes.
Has he won the Ballon d'Or before?
No.
Is he a midfielder?
Yes. That's a good question. Because yes, he is. Actually, he didn't win the World Cup. He wasn't selected for the tournament when his country won. So he didn't win the World Cup.
European?
Since you already asked that, yes.
Yeah.
European.
I'm not going to count this question as
Okay.
question, so you need to come up with another
Okay.
question.
No, you said he represented an European
Yeah, but
country, but was
Ticho asked if he was European, considering I said he was born in
he
an
was
African
born
country.
in African country?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Next question. Quick one.
Thiago Motta.
No.
Oh, Thiago Motta was in lineage.
Thiago Motta was born in Africa.
He hasn't even have African lineage. I forgot that.
Bana Sandini. Hey,
I
this
don't
man.
know. I don't know of any African country that speaks Italian. But anyway, Let's go, guys.
Did he play in the Premier League?
Yes, he did. Very successful in the Premier League, actually. There's one question that if you ask, the moment you ask that question, you will know who it is.
Did he captain his team?
Did he captain his team? He was not the out and out captain, but yeah, there were a few times when he did have to captain.
I said Isai.
No, but that was impressive.
He won
But
the
no.
World Cup. He won the World Cup.
Bro, that was close, man. My heart caught. As you mentioned, I think I be correct. My heart
He
caught.
won. He won the World Cup.
Yeah,
You said his country won, but he wasn't part of the
But he
team.
wasn't
wasn't
selected. Yeah,
he wasn't selected. Yes.
he wasn't selected.
Wow.
Next question. You have 8 more questions. After 8 more questions, both of you lose. We move on to the next.
Did he
question.
also play in? Did he also play in the Spanish La Liga?
Yes, he did. So let me just bring it all together for you. An African-born player who played for a European team, played in the Premier League and was very successful, never won the World Cup, and also played in La Liga. But his country won the World Cup.
Did he play for Real Madrid?
Yes, he did.
Claude McLean.
That should Claude Makelele is correct. That should narrow it down for you. Because one player that was born, or 2 players that were born in Africa but represented European teams were Benzema and Zidane.
Claude.
But Zidane won the World Cup. Benzema couldn't have been the player because he didn't play in the Premier League. So Claude Makelele, that is the guy. Anyway, we move on straight to the next player. Player chosen, guys. Questions now.
Oh my God.
2 more. 2 more, Jonah. You have 2 more chances.
I'll win this one, then we are done. We'll win this one, then we are done.
The way you dey do, no, you dey send the answers giver, man.
My
Because you are consoling,
my
you are
hands dey
consoling the ampound.
My-
The
my-
ampound, you are consoling.
My hands there here. I don't say anything. My hands there.
So you said that long before we start the show, sir.
First question. First question.
Is was a player born in Europe?
No.
Okay.
Is he still playing or retired?
No.
Is he still playing?
No. Retired.
Is he a coach?
No.
Retired.
He wasn't born in Europe.
Played
South
in-
American.
Played in England?
One question at a time. Jonah, your question.
Yeah, played in England.
Yeah, he played in England. Yes.
Is he South American?
No, he's not.
African?
No, he's not.
Is he retired? Have you said that? Have you said
He
that?
said yes.
Yeah. I said he's retired.
Yes, we did. We did.
Is he a defender?
No, he's not a defender.
Played in the French league.
No, he didn't play in the French
Didn't play
league.
in the French league. Okay.
Have you said he played? You said he's playing the Premier League.
Yes, he played in the Premier
Okay.
League.
Is he a striker?
No, he was not a striker.
Born in Europe?
No,
No.
Africa. Born in Africa.
nope.
Born in
Wait a
Asia.
minute. Europe, you said no.
Yes, he was born in Asia. Asian player, played in the Premier League, didn't play in the French league.
Did he play in the Eredivisie?
In the Dutch Eredivisie?
Yes.
Yes, he did.
Jisoo Park.
Jisoo Park!
Jisoo Park is correct.
Jisoo Park.
Jisoo
I
Park
said
is
it first, bro.
Jisoo Park, I said it.
Park. I said it first.
Hey, master. Hey,
I said it
tie game.
I
Tie
said
game.
it. I said it
Tie
first.
game.
It cannot be a
I said
tie
it
game. It cannot be a
Tie,
tie
I said
game.
it first. Jisoo Park.
It cannot be a
Jisoo
tie
Park.
game. Jonathan, copy the
How
correct
do you
answer.
say?
Jonathan, copy the correct answer.
Jason
Okay.
Park.
You just said it first.
Jason Park.
Jisoo Park.
Sito.
Yeah.
Why you be quick like that? Hey, you chop me. Oh.
Just a pack.
Hey, you chop me. Hey,
Asian,
when
I
Premier
think
League,
the two
when
of you
you
had the answer correct, but he just came up.
when you ask say he play for
Eredivisie.
Holland, no,
Yes.
yeah. When he
Yes.
said no, wait, Terry, you delay,
But you see, the fact
you
that he
send the
asked
answer, give
but
us.
you see, the fact that he asked the question means that he already knew who he was and he just wanted confirmation.
Yes.
My
Let
guy,
me go to narrow it down.
because sometimes no, you said it's a mystery player, right? So
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you answer, it gives us an idea. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I scratch this one. You delays, you send give him. It's okay.
Because when I asked if he was a striker, and he said no, I knew he was a forward,
No,
not a striker, but he's a forward.
Yeah.
When
But
I
a
said
forward,
Asian,
yeah.
he said okay, Asian, play the Premier League.
So meaning nowadays,
I know.
How you mean?
I have to check the way I respond to you guys because it looks
So,
like my
yes.
no,
response.
because it's a yes or no. No,
Yeah, for me,
it's a yes or no. But sometimes you they're like,
yeah.
Yeah, but
you know.
but you see, sometimes imagine asking me if the person was a forward and the person probably is like Enzo
It's
Fernandez where
not.
they play number 10 sometimes.
No,
It be
he's not.
midfielder. It be midfielder, not be forward.
Yeah.
But it does not.
Exactly. So you say no, he's not. But you're like,
So
You know, I have two
that's
players
a
in mind.
clue.
I have two players in mind. I have Park Jason and then Son Heung-min. So when
and
he
Son
said
Heung-min.
Asia playing the Premier League, I'll go to
He just
Eredivisie.
knows
He
two
said
players
no.
really. And
Yes.
the moment, in fact, that Eredivisie question shouldn't have even come. The moment I said Asia, the person was born in
Yeah.
Asia. Two of you should have guessed easily. Just throw the names. You should have just mentioned
No, because
Heung-min, Son, and
Son today.
Yeah.
Son today.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, guys. Another
So-
very interesting one. Heated one at the end, but very interesting. The third one, even if we do the third one, it still doesn't change anything. But I can still do it for you guys.
I beg, we don't need third one. We don't need the third one. Make we use them for the ampound.
We go use the third one. But the third one though. Okay, I know go give you a new clue.
Oh no, we not go do the third one.
Yeah.
Oh, Sicho, which one be that one?
victory-
When you do the ampound, you take clap.
This is three in a row for Sicho. 3 in a row.
3 in a row.
Oh, me too. Oh, me too. I beat him, sir.
Don't worry, producer get a record. So I go
You did
bring the
two.
record
You
next
did
time.
two. 2 in a row. Make three.
Yeah, actually Jonathan did 2 in a row and you've done 3.
Why are they?
Revenge.
So it's
Oh, yeah.
3-2 currently. The
Then
form
what?
guide is 3-2 in favor of Sicho. And that is how you wrap up the show. Sicho is still celebrating. Can you imagine? He's dancing like he's in a gospel music video. Anyway. And that's how we wrap up today's episode. Thank you very much, guys, for making this possible. Same time next week, of course. For those of you watching on YouTube, please subscribe and like the video.
Welcome to Footy Center Podcast Series.